Once again, happy Canada Day, Forge FC fans. And throughout the day, we are celebrating the beautiful game in this beautiful country that we call home. And I'm very pleased to be joined by Forge FC defender, a man who has seen more than 40 appearances as a member of the Canadian men's national team and one of only a handful of Canadians to ever play in the EPL. It is David Edgar. And Eddie, it's great to see you, buddy. How you doing?
Thank you. No, I'm good, buddy. Good to see you too.
Let's start with the Canadian men's national team, because I mean, from the junior, from junior national team to the senior men's national team, I mean, you've put in quite a few caps, and I guess just kind of put into perspective where this game has grown the most in your experience of Canada soccer.
That's a good question. Good question to start us off.
Of course.
Yeah, as you say, I've been involved in the national. My journey for the national team started at 15 years of age, right? Well, probably earlier to get into the regional program is how we used to do it. And then into sort of your provincial program and then into a national team program. And that was the only way for me to do it and set out a plan. And I achieved that, but that was only under 15. I had to stay involved. And the goal was to play for the national team, the men's team. I got there. It was a long process, but I loved every minute of it. I mean, I got to see the world. I got to play for Canada. I got to represent Canada. And I was actually at 3 under-20 World Cups, only played in 2. But to be there and to represent the Maple Leaf is something that I'll always cherish. But what the big difference now to me, I think, is the youth development for Canada, that grassroots, where now you don't have a group of 15, 16-year-olds coming in who are playing everywhere but Canada. Now you have players who are coming in who are playing in Canada at academies in the MLS. We've got players coming in now who are playing in the CPL, who have got their opportunities. But that grassroots level have something to aspire to and a pipeline to play professionally in domestic leagues.
I was about to say, in terms of like Canadians, like when you were first getting into the game, like who did you look up to as a Canadian, knowing that there weren't as many guys out there to kind of aspire to be?
Yeah, I mean, I looked up to the likes of even older than myself was Julian de Guzman, Atiba Hutchinson, Ian Hume, but even older was the Kevin McKenna's, the Paul Stalteris. I remember watching them. I was a fan first, and I remember watching them winning the Gold Cup and lifting that. And I thought, well, surely that's where I want to be some point. But yeah, I looked at the way Julian and Atiba handle themselves. It showed me a lot what it meant and how proud they were to play for Canada. And hopefully I've been able to pass that on to sort of the younger generation. But again, if anytime you get to play for your country in any sport is an honor.
Well, and that I was just going to talk about, you trying to motivate the next youth. And I was in, KW this past winter. You were running the second of the 2 camps you've run so far. And I guess just the idea that kids now today have guys that they can look up to who are playing, the game at the highest level at Alphonso Davies in the Bundesliga and all this kind of other stuff. But you also have guys who have played at the highest level who are in your own backyard. So I guess that's kind of another thing, is just to have someone who's accessible. I know you've been doing talks with soccer clubs all around. Like the idea of having someone to aspire to who's playing in your own backyard has got to be pretty special for kids now.
For sure. And it makes everything, especially with COVID hitting too, I feel it brought everyone more accessible. You were able to get on those calls with the Burlington Soccer Club or teams like that, which I'm more than happy to do. And I know all the players are, but it's something that, again, I didn't necessarily have. I idolize these players from afar. And now there's an opportunity for, I mean, not sounding big-headed, but a David Edgar to go into a football club, a local football club, which wouldn't have happened when I played for Kitchener Spirit growing up, So I think as long as the kids aren't taking those things for granted, they can see it is achievable. I mean, Alphonso Davies, I was driving him to training only a couple of years ago. My daughter was playing in the back garden with him. So, and now look at him. It's achievable. And good thing is someone like that is keeping his feet on the ground. He's humble as always. So.
And can you tell the difference in terms of the enthusiasm of kids? Like there seems to be more of an enthusiasm for soccer. And we've always been a hockey proud country, a hockey crazy country. And I know you played minor hockey right up until you had to kind of make a decision. But are you starting to see more of the enthusiasm because of the accessibility that soccer is now here in Canada. And you know, to throw it out there, the cost of being able to play soccer versus continuing to play high end, you know, other sports that require thousands and thousands of dollars of cost.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there with the word accessibility, because the numbers were there, the participation numbers were there when I was growing up, but it got to a point where people would have to decide, listen, I mean, I got to pursue this, or I'm going to go to school and get a job. It's simple as that. Yeah. For myself, there was no other option. I had committed to that, and that was me, and I was going to make that happen one way or another. But now there's a pipeline where kids can see it under 14. Okay, if I take this route, it'll help me get here, and I can achieve those goals step by step.
And I guess that's kind of the one thing that, like, you know, for me, I was never going to be a pro soccer player. I played soccer up until high school. I kind of knew. Okay, yeah. Okay. Thanks, Eddie. But I mean, for people who can look at this as a legitimate, you know, career choice, there before the Canadian Premier League, it was, okay, you know, maybe you have a chance in Europe. And then the MLS came along, and it's okay, well, maybe you have a chance to play somewhere in North America. Now you have a chance to say, like, okay, I can put in 4 years of youth sports. I can put in 4 years of NCAA somewhere, and there's something there waiting for me at the end. I think that something there waiting for me is got to be huge for young players who are trying to make a decision like that.
For sure. And you can go those different routes. You can do something the way Borges did it, where he's used it as a stepping stone to move on to Europe, which probably was his end game regardless. But now you can go, like you say, go away, go do schooling, come back, know there's something here. There is that league here, and it's pro-Canadian. That's the main thing. Whereas they want Canadians, they want young Canadians, whereas I'm slowly not fitting that mold anymore, but they want young Canadians who are going to be the future of the game, because the end of the day, the only thing that really matters, apart from producing these young players, is the national team results. For me, everything is in sync with promoting the national team, and that's what this is doing.
And, you know, I'm just throw my own 2 cents in here. You know, I was lucky enough to get to travel to some of the locations the Canadian men's team went. And it seems like John Herdman's kind of got a real good idea. And when he talks about the Canadian Premier League, and when he brings guys to these camps, and, you know, Marco Carducci and Tristan Borges, and these guys have opportunities to play, you know, caps for the Canadian men's national team, that helps kind of further legitimize this league, not amongst, you know, people like us, but people who may be outsiders who are looking at this league maybe for the first or second time, to help kind of legitimize what we're doing here. For sure it does. And it's not, and I know John, and I know what he's like, and those aren't token invitations or token caps. Those are, every game is a must-win game in the national team level, and you can't afford to sort of just give caps out. And John does that strategically, and it's shown that these players, given a chance, can play. And it also, what I've seen is it's given everyone else in the league an edge to go, okay, if he can do it, well, I can do it. And that's the way it needs to be, because that truly can happen. Speaking of which, do you think you got a couple more caps left in you if Coach Herdman were to give you the call?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've never said anything other than that. Fittest I've ever been. It's just football. I got injured the last game of the season when I was in England. I missed the Gold Cup. Someone came in, did well, and the shirt's theirs now. It's my job to put in the performances. Obviously, it's a difficult situation at the minute, but it's never far from the back of my mind that everything I do, kind of, I want to still play for the national team. So.
Well said. Eddie, it's always great to see you. Hopefully we'll see you back on the pitch sooner rather than later. Thanks so much for doing this, buddy. Take care.
Thanks, Louie. Take care, buddy.